Thank you for moving and coming and all of that stuff. You guys know more than we do how to get out of here, so if something happens and we need to get out, take us with you. It's about an hour. Like I said, we'll try and speed some stuff up a little bit just to be aware of your guys' time. If you need to take a phone call, we just ask that you step out and do that and then come back and join us. So this is us, Aurora Emergency Management Agency. Full-time staff, we have 3, and then the rest of us are all volunteers. So I'm Amy. Tom will be presenting also. He's also a volunteer. And these are kind of all the things that we do as volunteers. At the end, depending on timing, we'll go through a little more detail what we do and kind of give you the spiel on what we do. Some graphic images, they're not bad. I don't think you're going to have a problem with them, but you may see blood. If you don't like that, just look away momentarily because you will see accident scenes and things like that, but nothing that's crazy that we don't think you can handle. Okay. So this is how we make you participate and talk to us. What do you think is the leading cause of death for individuals less than 45 years of age? It's okay, you can say it.
D.
Okay. Unintentional injury? We all like that one? C. Suicide? Okay. Unintentional injury. Okay. Good job. So why are we here? This is the whole reason we're here, is to teach you things that you can do to help somebody who has life-threatening injuries survive until we can get paramedics, officers, first responders, and things to them. Kind of the steps we're going to go through today, all the things we're going to get through. Some stuff you may know, some stuff might be a refresher, some stuff might be new, but these are the steps of the things we're going to talk about today. We do not cover CPR. That's a class in and of itself. So we will talk about CPR, but we don't actually teach it. We do have resources at the end if you want to take a CPR class that we can give you to go do that. We also don't teach active shooter because that's a whole class in and of itself also. But we can get you resources if you're interested in that class. All right, so we're going to watch this video. Kind of sets the stage for why we're here. Why are we doing this teaching? Why are we doing what we're doing?
It was a little strange to sit down to someone that you've never met before and decide that you're going to grab their hand and tell them everything is okay.
I screamed. That's all I remember doing at that moment. I knew I was going to break.
I remember feeling like we had to do something immediately right now.
The day started out like any other day. Wasn't cold, wasn't hot. My friend called me that morning and he said, I'm going to take out my Harley and you got your new bike, and so let's just go out and have some fun.
All of a sudden, I see the woman on the motorcycle just flying through the air. I just remember saying, stop the car.
I remember getting thrown head first over the motorcycle, and I heard them say, don't move, please don't move. Blood was streaming down and it went on into the gutter. There's still the mark of blood.
And then when we pulled up and saw her, blood was rushing down out of her leg and into the gutter. My husband's cousin took his shirt off and immediately started applying pressure to stop the bleeding.
Camille was holding my hand. I remember that distinctly. She was saying, you're going to be okay. And to hear those words are so important.
I really feel bystanders have a responsibility to act. Don't be afraid. You're not going to hurt yourself. You're not going to hurt the patient. All you do is help. Even if it's just a comforting hand.
Doing something is better than doing nothing. That was something more than they would ever realize. That can make all the difference between life and death.
If you imagine yourself in a situation where you've been in an accident, you're vulnerable, you're frightened, think about what you would want.
So that's why we're here. Put yourself in either one of the ladies' shoes. What would you want if it was you involved in the accident? Or what would you do to help somebody else if you saw them in an accident? We'll talk about this a lot. Doing something is better than doing nothing. Okay, even if all you do is make a phone call to 911, that's doing something. Sometimes it's just providing comfort, and we'll talk about that too as we go throughout the day. Sometimes there's more things that you can do, but just trying to do something to help until we get professionals there. So we're going to talk about steps that you can take when responding to an emergency, different reactions that your body may go through. If you're not used to dealing with those kinds of situations, your body is like, whoa, what's happening? And then how to practice. You know, we didn't all get on, ride a bike, and then be perfect. We had to practice. So how do we practice these skills so that we have them when we need them? So looking at this slide, what are some things we should need to think about and be aware of when we're responding to this scene to help? Like, what kind of things do you notice that might be important for us?
Guess checking if the victim is responsive, conscious, breathing.
Okay, so he's talking to her, assessing her situation, maybe providing some comfort to her. Okay, what else do we see?
Maybe calling 911 already.
Okay, hopefully that's who he's on the phone with. Okay, what else?
Making sure you're not in danger. I mean, if they're in the middle of the road, making sure nobody
Okay,
crashes into you.
yep, we're in the road. This red car back here, is it stopped? Is it still driving? Like, we don't know. One of the big things we talk about is don't bring more victims to your scene. If it's not safe for you to be there, we don't want you to be there. So we'll talk about that a little later too. Okay, anything else? How about the glass on the ground? Is that a concern for us, kneeling down next to her? Right, we have to be careful of that. Gas cans open. Not sure if that's leaking anything, but that could be something that's important for us to be aware of and to let first responders know. Okay. What do we think is the most common home incident leading to an ER visit? Bites, falls, overexertion, or poisoning?
False.
Okay, false. Very good. So we'll talk about kind of different kinds of events that may happen. So there's the common vehicle crashes, accidents at home. You know, my dad who's in his 80s who thinks he should be on the roof fixing his roof all by himself. Like, no, you don't belong up there. So a lot of those kind of home incidents, things like that, bicycle accidents, things that are common that you probably will see in your lifetime. Then we talk about the rare man-made local weather incidents, although around here, maybe those aren't so rare anymore. But those kinds of things that you're probably not going to experience every day, every week, every month. But there is a possibility that those will happen. And then the very rare, your large-scale accidents, train accidents, plane accidents, terrorism, things like that. Could happen, but very rare chances that they're going to happen in our lifetime and something that we need to be dealing with. So if you act purposefully and quickly, you can save lives. We're going to talk about calling 911 and what that looks like, staying safe, moving the injured, stopping the bleeding. Again, we're not going to do a whole first aid CPR, but we'll give you some stuff on stopping the bleed. Positioning the injured, helping them breathe, helping them be comfortable until paramedics get there, and then providing comfort. Sometimes they just need somebody next to them to say, help's on the way. Okay. So what do we think is the average response time for EMS in a major metropolitan area? So around here, how long does it take to get a paramedic to you once you call 911?
15.
15?
6 or 7.
6 or 7? Okay, 6 to 9. Okay, 6 minutes does not seem like a long time, but if I stood up here for 6 minutes and just stared at you and didn't say a word, we'd probably all be really uncomfortable at about 32 seconds. So 6 minutes is a long time if you're injured, waiting for somebody to come help you. Switch that up to a rural area. So down south, out in the country, things like that. How long do you think it takes for them to get an ambulance?
20 minutes, 15 to 30.
Okay, 15, 20, 30, okay. 20 plus. So if 6 to 9 is a long time, 20 plus minutes is a long time to be laying on the ground injured by yourself. So having somebody there to kind of help do what you can do until they get there. Okay. Sometimes it only takes minutes for life-threatening injuries to kill somebody. So we're trying to bridge that gap, so to speak, and make sure that we're getting them some help before the professionals get there. And again, simple actions. Calling 911, controlling bleeding, just small things like that that you can do to help. We're gonna listen to Claire and some of her friends.
Any first responder will tell you that it is rare, really rare, to show up on any scene, whether it's a fire, whether it's someone sick, whether it's a cat in a tree, where someone isn't trying to do something. We do a pretty good job as professional medical response. We do a good job getting there quickly, but when we get there and nothing's been done, when we get there and there's been a huge time lag, when you get there it's been 30 minutes, and the person's now cold, and we know getting hypothermic, getting cold when you're traumatically injured kills you. We know that. If the person is in a position where they can't breathe well, right, and they haven't been getting enough oxygen, that kills you. We know that. 30 minutes is a long time. The person is bleeding and they continue to bleed, and there's a giant puddle of blood on the ground which should be inside that person's body. We know that.
And do something immediately would help enormous numbers of people. The worst thing you can do is just stand by and do nothing.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I think you got most of it. We didn't lose a whole lot. So eventually, we want to get to the emergency room. We want to get to trauma surgeons. We want to get to medical professionals that can help. Prior to that, we've got first responders. Could be law enforcement, paramedics, firefighters, things like that. So that 6 to 9 minutes between the incident and first responders getting there, that's what we're talking about. What can we do in that 6 to 9 minutes to give that person a fighting chance before they get down the rest of the trail? Okay, so what do we think would cause someone to not take action? Why are people like, nope, can't help, can't do it? What might be some reasons?
Lack of knowing what to do.
Okay, I don't know what to do. Okay.
Scared of hurting them.
Okay, I don't want to hurt them more. We saw that briefly in the video. Okay, I don't want to make things worse. Okay, anything else?
I don't want to get sued.
Okay, I don't want to get sued this day and age, and we'll talk about things that can protect you a little bit after that. Okay, I don't know what to do. I'm afraid to help. I don't want to hurt them, or I don't want to be sued, assuming that professional responders will get there right away. Like she said in the video, they're quick. They're not that quick. So things we can do in the meantime. So on the opposite side, what boosts the chance that people will help? Or what makes you say, you know what, I will help?
Usually if kids are involved.
Okay, kids are involved. Yep. What else?
Training.
Okay, training. You've taken a class, you know what to do, how to help. Okay. Anything else?
Someone taking initiative.
Okay.
So if they see someone else helping, they become more inclined to join in.
Yep, 100%. We have a video that we'll watch about that. If somebody else helps, now, okay, I'll help because they're helping. Okay. So more than one person's injured, sometimes it's like, oh, somebody will take care of him. But there's multiple people, then we're going to step up and help. You've experienced it firsthand. You know, we went through this incident together. I'm not hurt, you are. Then I can help you. Okay? Recognizing there is an immediate threat. If I don't do something, it will get worse. And then you know you can help. You've had the training, things like that. So every situation's different, every person's different. Things that I might be okay running in to help, you might not be okay running in to help. Things that you might be like, oh yeah, I'll help with that. I might be like, nope, I can't do that. Everybody's different, every situation is different. So there might be some times that you're willing to help, and other times you're like, this situation's just too dicey and I can't do it. And that's okay. It's a personal decision. Even if you just call 911. You don't have to physically be involved. You can make that phone call. So Good Samaritan laws do protect you if you're afraid of being sued. Obviously, it's not a perfect world, but those are out there to protect you. If you're intending to help, you're not intending to do harm, Good Samaritan laws are out there to protect citizens that want to come in and help. Okay, so we're going to watch this video. There is no sound on purpose. It kind of talks about if somebody helps, then other people will help. So we have this motor vehicle accident. This guy's like, oh, I'll lift the car. Not on your own, you won't. Everybody's kind of around like, well, maybe. Need more people to help. Okay, sudden realization like, hey, he's under there. We need to get him out of there. then more people come help. We maybe could have moved him a little bit further away from the burning motorcycle, but he's out from under the car. Okay? And that only happened because somebody stepped up, and then somebody else, and then somebody else, and then somebody else, and everybody got there to help. And at some point, they do actually bring a fire extinguisher and put that out. But in the interest of time, we'll jump ahead. So impact of stress on your body, distortion of time. That 6 to 9 minutes may seem like 25. It's a really, really long time. Or you're just moving and helping and whatever, and time is just going. Okay? Distortion of your senses. Sometimes you get tunnel vision. I'm focused on this guy, he's hurt. I'm not seeing anything else around me, which could include dangerous situations, things like that. So we want to make sure we're aware of that. Sounds, sometimes it's deafening, sometimes you hear nothing. There's somebody next to you talking to you saying, hey, the paramedics are here, and you don't even hear them because you're just focused on what's going on. Fight or flight, okay, I'm gonna run in and help, or I'm getting the heck out of Dodge. Okay. Shaky temperature changes. A few years back, my brother was in a jet ski accident. Our initial was, okay, we gotta get him out of the water, we gotta get his life jacket off, we gotta check his neck, we gotta do all this stuff. We're doing everything, we're all fine. Paramedics show up and take over. I walked away, and I've never been so sick in my life because my body was like, okay, adrenaline dump. And then he's fine, okay. They take him and everything's okay. But your body's going through that while your adrenaline's flowing, you're good. And then as soon as it stops, that's when your body's like, okay, that was not normal. So things like that will happen. Just be aware of it. It's normal, it's natural, it will pass. Sometimes your brain doesn't do what you thought it would do. We'll talk about practicing things. You're like, oh yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. And then the stressful situation happens, and maybe you don't really do what you thought you would do. So kind of those things that we'll talk about too. Talked about being the first link in the chain of survival. Again, what can we do to help in that 6 to 9 minutes? Okay, let's talk about calling 911. How many 911 calls do we think Aurora handled January 1 through June 30th of last year? Any guess?
B.
Okay, B or C? B it is. Okay, just under 87,000. So double that for the whole year. So it's a lot of 911 calls. Okay, so we're gonna talk about 911. What happens when you call? What do you do? What do you not do? Things like that. Anybody ever called 911? Okay. 1 is not calm or 0. 5 is really calm. What do you think you were on that call? 2? 3? Okay. Depends on the situation. If it's a family member, you're going to be a lot closer to a 1 than if it's a stranger. That's just natural and that's life. Okay? Which is okay. Your 911 telecommunicators are trained to get you as calm as they can to help work through this call. They're also trained to assess what's going on. Okay, they'll ask you specific questions about the incident, figure out what's going on, what kind of help you need, what do we need to get there. They also want to keep you safe. Okay, they may give you instructions for CPR, controlling bleeding, things like that, or they may give you instructions of what not to do. If that scene is not safe for you to help, they're going to tell you not to approach, to stay away, and to keep everybody else away. So, they're giving you things to do, please do. If they're giving you things not to do, please do not do them. That's for your safety. Okay. Always make the phone call. Unless you know for sure somebody's calling 911, make sure you make that phone call yourself also. You may have a different vantage point. Okay, you may be on the other side of the incident and see something that I don't see as an initial caller. Okay. Take a deep breath when you call. Let them guide you. Okay, they will walk you through, they will get you through all the things that they need to ask. And again, if they tell you to do or not do something, follow their instructions. Unless it's something you truly are not comfortable doing, you can just say, you know what, I don't know him, I'm not breathing for him. Okay, fine, we'll do compressions instead. So if there's things you're not comfortable, you can say that. Basic things they want to know is where, specific locations, okay? Anybody ever drive down the expressway going to and from work? Do you have any idea of the exits in between where you get on and get off? Or do you just know this is where I get on, this is where I get off? Okay. Pay attention to those things because those may be important. It might be halfway between and you have to be able to give that location. Okay. Type and severity of life-threatening injuries, and then any safety concerns for you as a helper and for the first responders as they're coming in. What do they need to know when they get there? So this is our scenario. We're gonna go through some questions quick. What kind of location information would we give to the 911 operator about where this incident occurred? How would you describe where this was? Okay, on the curve of the road, maybe we know the road name, but it's at the curve. Okay. Anything else as far as location that might be helpful?
The power lines.
Okay, power lines. Maybe you don't know where that is. Your 911 operator should know where that is. Okay. How many and what type of vehicles are involved?
White SUV.
Okay, white SUV.
All-wheel vehicle.
Okay. Is it important to know that that vehicle is upside down? Okay, vehicles don't belong that way. So that's important for first responders to be aware of. Anyone pinned, trapped, or thrown from the vehicle? Maybe. Can't really tell from this picture, but maybe. Any obvious injuries? If we can get close enough, can we talk to the driver and ask him? Things like that. You may not know, and if you don't know, it's okay to say, I don't know. Any fluid leaking from the vehicle or any other hazards? Maybe. Okay. This over here, maybe that's barbed wire in between. Maybe behind there is a retention pond and that vehicle is upside down in water. Okay, those would be hazards, those would be things that we would want to make sure that we're passing along. Okay, so we kind of talked about specific locations, details, patient details. Okay, anything that we can give them to give the first responders a picture of what it is that they're responding to. Okay, so key points, call 911 as soon as possible. If you are the only one there, try and do bleeding control first and then call 911. So we can at least try and get that bleeding under control. Give as much information as you can. Follow their instructions if they're giving you things to do or not to do.
About staying safe, what I want to emphasize here is this is a judgment call. This is a decision you have to make based on your perception of the circumstances. What is the most okay, by the end of this thing, we're going to help give you some ideas about how to decide whether to stay or go and whether you move, and we're also going to talk about how to move someone who's injured. Using all of your senses, what can you see? Down power lines, smoke, debris, other things. Can you hear things, voices, creaking, hissing sounds? And can you smell anything? Gasoline, smoke, some chemicals? This is what's called situational awareness. That is knowing everything that's going around you. Amy talked about how sometimes our senses get derailed. We've got tunnel vision, we can't hear things. So this is a point where you need to consciously make decisions to evaluate that situation you're in. Anything obvious here that you might hear? Is that saw still running? That might be something you want to yank the cord out of the wall before the thing bounces across the benches, jumps off and hits you. Obviously you can see blood. The person who's injured may be screaming or they may be saying, yeah, it'll be all right. What about here? This looks like this might be some serious injuries. There's a lot of blood on the ground. What kind of shape is that helmet in? When the bicycle helmet's busted up, this is probably serious. Where is the injured person? Has an injured person ever gotten up and run away? That kind of thing happens. You're in a curve in the road. The sight lines may not be good. This might not be a good place to be standing. Again, use your judgment. The first question you need to ask is, do I feel safe here? If the answer is yes, then you stay and start helping the people who are injured. If the answer is no, the question is, can you move the injured person? If the answer is yes, leave the unsafe place with the injured person and move yourself and them as little as possible, but to some place that is safe. And if the answer is no, keep yourself safe, leave the injured person where they are, make the 911 call, but as Amy and responders say, don't bring additional victims to the accident. If you look at a room that's full of green vapor and there's somebody on the ground, don't go in there to get them. Because by the time the paramedics get there, there's going to be 2 people on the ground, and they've got that much more to worry about. If you're going to move people, do it wisely. You don't want to injure yourself or further injure them. If there's others around, get help. If there's something like a blanket, a chair, a large coat, how many of you have a rug in your bathroom that's about yay by yay? It's got nice rubber on the bottom, so it won't move. But if you flip it over so that the fabric slides down on the ground and the person is lying on the rubber side, that slides real easy. That would be a good way to move someone. This point will be made a couple of times here. If someone is gravely, desperately injured, you're not going to make the situation any worse by moving them. Again, judgment call. By the time we get through this, you'll be able to recognize life-threatening bleeding. You'll know how to apply pressure and know when and where to use a tourniquet. Real quick guess, how many pre-hospital deaths, people who die before they get to the ER, are due to loss of blood? One out of every 3 people who dies before they get to the emergency room dies from loss of blood. So stopping bleeding is a serious step that you can take before the paramedics ever get there.
If you see somebody and you're like, wow, that's a lot of blood, wow, that's a lot of bleeding, you should do something. That's significant bleeding. What happens is it's all about the amount of blood loss. We have a set amount of blood in our bodies, based on your size and other things. Generally 5 liters, 5 to 6 liters of blood. We know from medical science and studies at what point your body starts to have not enough blood, to the point where it's causing physiologic problems, it's causing problems. That starts around 500 cc, about half a liter to a liter of blood. Once we get below, if you've lost 2 liters of blood, and 3 to 5 minutes is pretty fast to lose that amount. It's more like probably 10 to 15 minutes in bad bleeds. But once you get to that point, and then beyond that, potentially, you can go into a state of what we call irreversible shock. And essentially, the tank doesn't have enough gas in it to keep the engine running. Irreversible shock is irreversible. Which means it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter how good your trauma center is. It doesn't matter how good your doctors are. It doesn't matter how good your paramedics are. It doesn't matter. Once you start that physiologic process of irreversible shock, it continues. You can't break that cycle and you will die, or the person will die. The only treatment for irreversible shock is prevention of irreversible shock. Don't let them get to that point. That blood belongs in the body, it doesn't belong on the street. keep it. No matter how we do it, let's keep it.
You're all familiar with the size of liter bottle. And so the loss of blood of about 2 liters is significant. How many of you donated blood before? They take about a half liter. You eat your brownie, you drink your cup of coffee, and you get up and go home, and everything's fine. That's minor. They can manage that. But when you start getting to the point where you've lost 2 liters of blood, and if you think about the size of puddle that 2 1-liter bottles would make on the ground, you're talking about a lot of liquid on the ground. We're going to talk about how to stop it.
Pressure stops bleeding. It's one of those things in medicine that we've known for a long time. It's one of the things that, it's a truth in medicine. It's true today, and it'll be true in 100 years. Pressure stops bleeding. So what we really want the citizen to do, how do you stop bleeding if you're on the side of the road or in the middle of the woods and waiting for someone to come help you, is you have to put pressure on the bleeding. There's a couple things about that people need to understand. Number one, you got to understand a little bit about the anatomy. The major blood vessels, the ones that will cause bleeding to the point where you're going to die, are always deep under the skin near the bone. So they're always down, they run right along the major bones. That means that you have to apply a lot of pressure. It's not just a little bit of pressure, it is a significant amount of pressure. Number two, it may cause some discomfort, and that's okay. You're not doing any damage, you're not hurting them, you're actually saving them. And number three, you have to hold it for a long time, right? You have to make sure you're holding pressure for long enough that the clotting process starts. How long is that pressure? As long as you can. Until we get there, or until you can't hold it anymore. What people have a tendency to do is they want to come up and put a bandage on a bleeding wound. A bandage doesn't stop bleeding. All it does is soak up blood. And again, that blood that it's soaking up into that bandage, it should be in your body. It shouldn't be being soaked into the bandage. We want it to stop. So before you put the bandage on, before you make something look pretty, you want to put pressure on it, and that pressure is what works. If you don't get the bleeding stopped, even if you slow the bleeding, maybe you buy that person enough time until we can get there and completely control the bleeding. And then some bleeding can't be controlled. The wounds are too big, the artery is too large, the vein is too large. That's where we look at tourniquets, right? And even still, if you have a wound that needs a tourniquet, I want to put pressure on it while I'm getting the tourniquet in place. Because if you're free-flowing blood while I'm working on getting my tourniquet, you're dying while I'm getting my tourniquet in place. We want to stop the dying. We stop the dying by stopping bleeding with pressure, and then we apply the tourniquet, which then further controls it. That's the key.
So what you're involved here is to finding the source of bleeding. You may get blood on the ground, but it may not be obvious where that blood is originating from. So you need to do that search. You may have to open up some clothing to do that. If you have something to put between your hands and the bloods, do it. Unfortunately, we live in the 21st century and bloodborne pathogens are an issue. This is a judgment call. If you don't feel safe getting your hands into it, don't. If you have something to put between the blood in your hands, use it. Gloves, cloth, a plastic garbage bag. When you're applying a pressure, anything you've got that might help, wad that up. That gives me a way to concentrate the pressure more than if I was just using my bare hand. The second point that he made was that when you put that pressure on, you have to keep it there. Can you imagine trying to squeeze your hand and hold someone's flesh tight for the 6 to 9 minutes that it takes the ambulance to get there? Your hand's going to cramp up. You're not going to be able to do it. Use your body ergonomics. Use your weight. You might have to put your knee on it, but do something that enables you to put that pressure on and keep that pressure on the whole time. It may be painful to the person you're doing it on. I'm sure all of you have had your blood pressure taken when they put the cuff on your arm. And when that thing comes all the way up and actually shuts off the blood flow, it hurts. But yes, it's causing some pain, but that pain ultimately was going to save somebody's life. So, and then lastly, no peeking. We all have a tendency to do that, right? We get a cut, we put some pressure on it, we put a cloth on it or something, and then we want to, is it still bleeding? Don't do that. Put the pressure on, keep it on there until the paramedics get there. Tourniquets are only used on the arm and the leg, no matter how many people we might want to use them on a scalp wound. This is a commercial tourniquet. I'll pass it around. You can look at it. If you want to take a minute after class and try it on my arm, I'll allow you to do that. Just to get a feel for how much effort it takes. The other thing is you only use a tourniquet if the pressure's not working. Back when I first took first aid training back, well, never mind, we rode dinosaurs at school, but we were told that if you put on a tourniquet, you're sacrificing a limb for a life. Medical science has come a considerable way since then, and that may no longer be true, but this is an instance where you need to make that decision that the pressure is not working, and you need to do it. You need to mark the fact that you've applied a tourniquet, because by the time the paramedics get there, you could have been distracted, moved someplace else. And the simplest thing I was always taught is to just dip your finger into some of that blood on the ground and put a T on their forehead. The commercial tourniquets actually have a place where if you've got a magic marker, you can write. If you've got a magic marker, use that to put the T on their head. And if you've got a magic marker, it wouldn't be a bad idea to write the time on their forehead as well, because that's information that the medical people need when they get to the ER. How long has that tourniquet been there? That will make a difference in what they have to do going forward. Once the tourniquet goes on, you don't take it off. Originally, we were taught, well, every 30 minutes, loosen it. Well, don't do that. All that's going to do is just start the whole bleeding process all over again. The blood clot that you've kind of got started forming is going to break up, and you've been too much. We're going to talk about how to position someone who's injured. And there's two circumstances that we need to deal with. One is a person who is conscious. The other is a person who's unconscious. For someone who's unconscious, there's things we can do to position them in such a way that it improves their chances of survival. If it's someone who's unconscious, that's important. If they're conscious, then you can work with them. But do be aware that someone who is currently conscious may pass out, in which case you'll be switching from one paradigm to the other. If they're conscious and breathing, let them position themselves. Again, back in the dark ages, when I was younger, I was a ski patrolman, and we saw a few injuries every weekend I worked. And typically we would put a quick splint them on the hill, get them on the toboggan, get them down in the first aid room where they'd be warm, comfortable, put a more permanent cardboard splint so their family could transport them into town. And in the process of doing that, we would shift the foot back and forth a little bit to find the place that was most comfortable, and that's how we would carve up the cardboard to make the splint to hold that position. We had a woman coming in one afternoon who we could not make comfortable. Nothing we did would work. And finally we asked her to try to show us, how do you want your leg positioned so the pain's bearable? And what she finally wound up doing was her leg was in a position kind of like this, which was not intuitive, but that was what she said felt good. And one of the beauties about using corrugated cardboard to make splints is you can carve it up and make whatever shape you need, so that's how we carved up the cardboard and made it that shape. We got a letter back from the doctor the next week congratulating us on, number one, having no additional damage, and telling us that what she had was a triple spiral fracture in both bones. It was really ugly, but by allowing her to tell us how to position it, we were able to do a much better job than if we were trying to use some kind of a rigid positioning paradigm. Don't force them to lie down. Again, I was taught, no, someone's injured, you get them down flat, you get their feet up a little bit. No, don't force them to do it. That may not be the right thing to do. Let them manage it. If they're struggling, help them. Helping them breathe. I don't know if any of you are runners, but what do you see runners doing at the end of the race? That position actually opens up the lungs and makes it easier for someone to breathe, either sitting down or standing. It's called a tripod position. That if they haven't done it instinctively, you might suggest it to them. If they're unconscious, you need to assess the situation. Are they breathing? If the answer to that is yes, move them into what we're going to call the recovery position, which you'll see in a minute or two. If you know if they're not breathing and you know CPR, go ahead and do it. The 911 operator may coach you through at least starting some of it. If you don't know CPR, again, move them into a recovery position. If they are, start the CPR. This is what we're calling the recovery position. How many of you wake up in the morning kind of in that position? It's a very comfortable position to be in, but there's some very important things about it. The first is that it's stable. There's no danger of them flopping over and ending up on their back. The reason that's important is because injured people do occasionally vomit. And if they're lying on their back, that stuff's going to get down into their lungs. So you want them in a position so that the mouth is pointing downward. Having the leg out there on the bottom and bent out stabilizes them so they can't flop over onto the back. The way the arms are positioned does two things. The one arm that's reaching out, again, improves stability. And by cradling the head that way, you can tilt the chin up and help keep the airway open to make it easier for them to breathe. There is a small risk that in the process of moving someone into that position, particularly if they have a neck injury, you could cause a problem. Ideally, you would have two people to help with this, but trying hard to support the head and neck as you're moving someone into that position is important. If you suspect that, try to keep supporting the head, either with some sandbags or having a helper hold their head. And don't move them any more than is necessary to get to that position. So the key points here, if they're conscious and breathing, let them position themselves, whether it's sitting, lying. If you can get them to not stand up. Do be aware, though, that they may pass out, in which case you're going to need to grab them and ease them to the ground and proceed with unconsciousness. And if they're unconscious, get them into that recovery position, minimize the movement. Last but not least, we're going to talk about providing comfort. The point here is keep it simple. This is not time to display your physiological knowledge. And simple words, like in the opening video, just, help's on the way, we're going to take care of you. Getting the rapport going, sharing your names, asking them what they need, rather than trying to make assumptions and force something onto them. You can ask them what happened. They may ask you what happened. Don't speculate. Don't make up stories. You can just say, I don't know, I just got here. We've called 911. We've got somebody over here getting the first aid kit out. We're going to help you out with this. And then tell them what's going to happen next. The ambulance is on its way. They'll be here shortly. We'll take care of you. We all have that anxiety about what's going to happen next. And that helps reduce that. This may sound trivial, this comfort part. My wife is a retired nurse, and I ran this by her. By getting someone comfortable and getting to relax a little bit, their blood pressure is going to go down, their heart rate is going to go down. If there's bleeding involved, that's going to help stop that bleeding by getting the heart to work less. So this is an important part of this process. Keeping them warm. The guy mentioned back in the video that people who get hypothermic, that makes the prognosis worse. Holding a hand, maintaining eye contact. Be patient. These people are hurt. They may be highly emotional, and you need to go with the flow. Deal with them where they are. If you have to leave that person to go on and help someone else, let them know you're leaving. Don't just disappear. Again, this is part of the process of relieving some of that stress. And think. These space blanket things first came out back a long time ago when I was the ski patrolman, and I was thinking, that little thin piece of Mylar with foil on it is going to keep somebody warm? I was highly skeptical, but what I understand now is, what it is, it's a windbreak. The air flowing over your body cools you, and even just that piece of plastic is enough to be a windbreak and help keep the warm air around their body and help keep them from cooling off. Keeping them warm does improve blood clotting. It reduces the other stress, and it provides some level of comfort. If you're dealing with children, get down to their level. The last thing a kid needs is somebody up here glowering down at them, even if your voice is soft. To the extent that's possible, get your body between them and the scene. There are places in this world where kids are accustomed to dealing with this kind of stuff. Fortunately for most of us, that's not the situation. So we need to protect them from this kind of mayhem. Keep your language simple. Kids may regress. 10-year-old may start acting like a 6-year-old. If that happens, what you need to do is you need to scale back with them. And even though they look 10 years old, you deal with them as if they're 6 years old to get them through this. And questions to make sure that they understand what you're telling them. If you're dealing with people with disabilities, access functional needs, the important thing here is don't assume anything. Ask them what they need. If they're confused or speech is slurred or other things, that could be due to injuries, not because they're incompetent. And so don't jump to conclusions based on the kind of things you're seeing about who they are and what their capabilities are. If they have medical equipment, a family member, a service dog, anything like that with them, keep those things together. Keep those two family members together, keep that dog with the person, keep that equipment with the person. They're going to need it in the process of going through the care chain, and being separated from those things is just going to increase the anxiety, and that just goes in the completely wrong direction from where we're trying to go. Again, don't assume anything. So the key points are keep them warm, get permission to help if they're conscious, and be respectful of individual needs. Don't assume anything. Being prepared. Having a plan. And a plan can be simply, one of our other instructors is a runner. And he has trained himself, when he's out running and sees another runner coming, he says to himself, what would I do if that person suddenly dropped? That kind of mental preparation is practice. That's part of what we're trying to do here, is get you to think about some of these situations so that if you suddenly find yourself in one, you've had a chance to do some of that. I'm going to assume that since you're all good city employees, that you've already signed up for Aurora Alert. If not, we can help you with that. Keeping supplies. We have a couple of samples up here. We'll leave them out in a minute. This is a commercially available control kit. They're about $65, $70 from Amazon. They've got all the gear you need in them. This is one that was assembled from various supplies, and that's about all you need for a bag to keep it stored. I have one of these commercial kits in my truck under the seat. I've had some people tell me it should be under the driver's seat, so if I'm the one hurt, I can reach it. This is the kind of thought process that goes into this being prepared. Notice that this is not just your typical little bitty first aid kit. They're not talking about Band-Aids, they're talking about 6-inch gauze. This is heavy duty stuff. There are training programs for the American Red Cross, Heart Association, King County Health Department. In particular, CPR, first aid classes, you may get those through your workplace. You may have to do them yourselves. King County Health Department has a couple of classes that are very good. One is called Stop the Bleed. That is a hands-on class. You'll get messy in that, but you will learn how to use this equipment and stop serious bleeding in person. The other one that they will do is the opioid overdose response, administering naloxone. We tend to think of drug overdose problems being kids, young people. The American Association of Retired Persons, the AARP, reports that the fastest increasing cause of death in senior citizens is opioid overdoses from prescribed medications that they've lost track of where they took it or not. So that's something that is a serious issue. Lastly but not least, here's the commercial. We are the Aurora Emergency Management Agency. We mentioned we have 3 full-time staffers and 30 to 40 volunteers. I am one of those volunteers. We do a number of things. We assist police and fire with traffic incident management. If it's going to be a long-term incident, we will relieve police officers so they can be released back to patrol duties. We have a ground search and rescue team that gets called out periodically to aid surrounding counties, this area. We do public education. This class is one of the offerings that we have. We also do some events around town where we just meet with people and try to get them to think about some of these things. I'm a ham radio operator. Auxiliary communications is essentially everything except what the city uses on a day-to-day basis. When you have a large-scale incident, the demands on the communication systems skyrocket. And so we will bring in additional resources, our own ham radio equipment, city-owned ham radio equipment, CB radios, GMRS, FRS. Anything we can do, we can act as messengers to take things back and forth. We were in the Emergency Operations Center last night for the severe weather event. We have people there who have special training in radar interpretation. They're watching the situation. If it's daylight, we'll put spotters out. Trying to go out and spot at night is just flat too dangerous. You can't see anything and things can be on top of you before you ever know it. And the Emergency Operations Center is the support hub in a large incident, and we serve as the gophers. We'll make coffee, we'll make the pizza runs, we'll answer telephones, so that the city department representatives who are in the EOC are free to do what they're supposed to be doing. If you're interested, there's some brochures over on the table. If you're part of a group outside of this that you think might find this interesting, give us a shout. We have this 1-hour presentation. We also have a 2-hour version of it that's a little more involved, and we'd be happy to bring that to your location.